Sunday is a feast of the Epiphany, which means revelation. It is a time that we mark the visit of the Magi to the baby Jesus. This feast of the Epiphany has so much to tell us about being Christians and about being church. Because what it mostly tells us is that at the very beginning of Jesus' existence here on earth, it is indicated to us that the good news of Jesus Christ, the gospel of God's love for the world, is meant for everyone, not just for a particular group, not just for a particular place, but for all the world. And on this feast, we are called to follow the generosity of the Magi. The Magi come to visit Mary and Joseph and the child Jesus, and they come bringing their gifts. And that's what we're called to do. We're called to bring our gifts to Jesus. We're called to bring our gifts to God. Not as a tribute to some greedy ruler, not as a bribe to get what we want, but as a response to this overwhelming love that's indicated by the Son of God becoming one of us in order to save us. We're called to follow the hospitality of Mary and Joseph. Can you imagine what it must have been like to have these three visitors come who they didn't know, who obviously were not from around where they lived, and they welcomed them in? That's the kind of generosity, that's the kind of hospitality we're called to have. We're called to be welcoming people. We're called to be a welcoming church. In the gospel, Matthew tells us that when the Magi stopped, they were overjoyed at seeing the star. And I think they were overjoyed at seeing the star because their indication, their intuition that something was happening was vindicated, that they weren't deluding themselves and imagining that some star was indicating something. The star was indicating something real, that there was indeed a newborn King of the Jews. And for me, that's a great description of what church can be. That people would come into our church and we would welcome them. And they would be overjoyed because their intuition that they could find something there, that they could find a reason to live and a reason to love and a reason to have faith and a reason to hope would be vindicated by coming to the church and encountering Jesus. So we're called to follow the generosity of the Magi. We're called to follow the hospitality of Mary and Joseph. And we're called to be little epiphanies. We're called to be little revelations of God's love for the world.